Imagine your world crumbling with just 3 words. That's exactly what happened to me. My marriage, once a haven, had become a frozen wasteland. My wife Sarah had shut me out completely. Night after night, I lay awake, wondering what I had done wrong. Was I not good enough? Was there someone else? The silence was deafening, the loneliness unbearable. But the truth, when it finally surfaced, was more shocking, more devastating than I could have ever imagined. It involved her younger sister Emily, and a confession that would change all our lives forever. This is my story, the story of a cold marriage, a forbidden secret, and the night everything fell apart. Get ready, because this is going to be a wild ride. I've always considered myself a loving and devoted husband. I worked hard to provide for Sarah, always making sure she had everything she needed and more. We had been married for 7 years, and for the first few years, things were wonderful. We laughed, we traveled, we built a life together. But then, something shifted. Sarah started pulling away. She became distant, unresponsive, and increasingly cold. Intimacy vanished. Conversations dwindled to curt exchanges about bills and groceries. I tried everything to bridge the gap, to rekindle the spark. I planned romantic getaways, cooked her favorite meals, showered her with gifts, but nothing seemed to work. She remained an enigma, a fortress of silence that I couldn't penetrate. The nights were the worst. Lying next to her in bed, feeling the immense distance between us, was a form of torture. I felt like I was losing her, piece by piece, and I didn't know why. The atmosphere in our home in the city became thick with unspoken tension. Sarah's coldness permeated every corner, chilling me to the bone. I tried talking to her, pleading with her to tell me what was wrong, but she always brushed me off with vague excuses about stress at work or simply needing space. I started to suspect the worst. Was she having an affair? Was she in love with someone else? The thought gnawed at me, fueling my anxiety and driving me to the brink of despair. I even considered hiring a private investigator, but the idea felt so invasive, so desperate, that I couldn't bring myself to do it. Instead, I continued to suffer in silence, clinging to the hope that somehow, someday, things would go back to the way they were. I was desperate to understand the shift, to find a solution, but Sarah remained a closed book. Then, Emily came to visit. Sarah's younger sister had always been a bright and cheerful presence in our lives, a welcome contrast to Sarah's increasingly somber demeanor. Emily was staying with us for a few weeks, while she looked for a new apartment. Initially, I was relieved to have her around. Her laughter and energy seemed to lighten the mood in the house, even if only slightly. She tried to engage Sarah in conversation, to coax her out of her shell, but Sarah remained aloof. I found myself spending more and more time talking to Emily, sharing my frustrations and anxieties about my marriage. She listened patiently, offering words of comfort and support. I knew I shouldn't be confiding in her like that, but I felt so isolated and alone. She was the only one who seemed to care, the only one who offered me a glimmer of hope. One evening, Sarah was out of town for a business trip. Emily and I were sitting in the living room, watching TV. The atmosphere was comfortable, almost companionable. We were discussing a movie we had just watched when Emily suddenly turned to me. Her eyes filled with a mixture of sadness and determination. She hesitated for a moment, then took a deep breath and said, "Jim, I need to tell you something about Sarah." My heart pounded in my chest. I knew, deep down, that whatever she was about to say would change everything. I braced myself for the worst, but nothing could have prepared me for the truth. What secret was she about to unleash, and how would it reshape my perception of my wife and my entire marriage? The silence hung heavy in the air, broken only by the frantic beat of my own heart. She's been struggling with something for a long time," Emily began, her voice barely above a whisper. "She's afraid to tell you, but it's eating her alive." She paused, took another deep breath, and then uttered the 3 words that shattered my world. "She doesn't love you." It felt like a physical blow. The words hung in the air, heavy and suffocating. I couldn't breathe, couldn't think. Everything I thought I knew about my marriage, about my life, suddenly crumbled around me. Years of love, devotion, and sacrifice seemed to vanish into thin air. I stared at Emily, dumbfounded, unable to process what she had just told me. How could this be true? How could Sarah have been living a lie for so long? The pain was unbearable, a searing ache that radiated through my entire being. Emily explained that Sarah had been unhappy for years, ever since she realized that she had settled for me rather than pursuing her true passions and dreams. She had always felt a sense of resentment, a feeling that she was trapped in a life that wasn't meant for her. Instead of addressing these feelings, she had bottled them up, allowing them to fester and poison our relationship. Emily had known about Sarah's unhappiness for a long time, but she had promised her sister that she wouldn't say anything. However, seeing my pain and witnessing the disintegration of my marriage had finally compelled her to break her promise. She couldn't stand to see me suffer any longer, she said, and she felt that I deserved to know the truth, no matter how painful it might be. That night, after Emily's confession, I couldn't sleep. I replayed the conversation over and over in my head, trying to make sense of it all. The anger, the betrayal, the overwhelming sense of loss washed over me in waves. I felt like I had been living a lie for years, and now the truth had finally caught up with me. I knew that I couldn't stay in a marriage where I wasn't loved, where I was simply I knew that I had to confront Sarah, to demand an explanation, to find out why she had kept this secret from me for so long. I spent the rest of the night pacing, agonizing over what to do. The future stretched before me, uncertain and daunting, but one thing was clear. My life would never be the same again. The foundations of everything I believed in had been shaken to their core. When Sarah returned from her business trip, I confronted her immediately. I told her what Emily had told me, and I demanded to know if it was true. At first, she denied it, vehemently protesting that Emily was lying. But as I pressed her, her defenses crumbled. Tears streamed down her face as she confessed that everything Emily had said was true. She admitted that she had never truly loved me, that she had settled for me because she was afraid of being alone. She apologized for the pain she had caused, but her words rang hollow. The damage was done. The trust was broken. There was no going back. I made the painful decision to end our marriage. The divorce was messy and acrimonious, but in the end, I knew it was the right thing to do. The aftermath of the divorce was difficult. I felt lost, betrayed, and utterly heartbroken. I had invested so much time and energy into my marriage, and it had all been for nothing. I struggled to pick up the pieces of my life and move on, but slowly, gradually, I began to heal. I focused on my work, spent time with friends and family, and started exploring new hobbies. I realized that I deserved to be with someone who truly loved me, someone who appreciated me for who I was. And as for Sarah and Emily, I haven't spoken to them since the divorce. The betrayal was too deep, the pain too raw. I needed to distance myself from them in order to heal and move forward. This experience taught me a valuable lesson. Always be true to yourself, and never settle for less than you deserve. So, that's my story. A story of betrayal, heartbreak, and ultimately, resilience. I hope you found it engaging and relatable. It's not easy sharing such personal details, but I believe it's important to be honest and vulnerable. We all go through tough times, but it's how we respond to those challenges that defines us. Remember, you are stronger than you think, and you are capable of overcoming anything life throws your way. And now, if you enjoyed this story, please give it a big thumbs up. Leave a comment down below and let me know what you think. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel for more true life stories and relationship advice. And if you know someone who might benefit from hearing this story, please share it with them. Thanks for watching.